Hey, welcome to Sports and Politics with T. I'm your host, Tanya. Tonight we have made it back to Monday, guys. Listen, I hope everybody's enjoyed their weekend so far. We are already getting into that third week of September, y'all. Let's give it up. Yes, we are moving right along. Because guess what, guys? In one more week, it will be October. Today is the first day of fall. And listen, guys, I had such a wonderful time last week. I was out on my Thursday show because I did say on last Monday that I was going to be out for taping. But I had a great time, headed to the coast, headed to the beach with some family and friends. And I'm telling you, the weather was absolutely gorgeous. And I have lots of pictures to back it up, all right? But I'm telling you, it was so nice just to get away for a little bit and just to, wallow in the ocean and just let the wind blow through my hair. It was so nice. All right. Got back last night. Got back into the swing of things, went to work this morning, of course, but I am back in full effect. And let me just say, I did miss a lot of people and all last week. I did have a lot of comments coming through the inbox and a lot of new things to come that we may talk about on this coming Thursday that I think is going to be a good idea for the show. All right. Now, tonight, we are going to talk about some things dealing with the Charlie Kirk situation. And, of course, he had an untimely death about almost 2 weeks ago. And let's just say there's been a lot of, controversy going on. I did try to steer away from that topic just to kind of analyze some facts and to make sure that we're getting all the facts before we address this, okay? Tonight we're going to talk about freedom of speech, okay? A lot of things have transpired since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, tonight we're going to talk about CNN. We're going to have the regular candidates on there, and they're going to talk about, freedom of speech. Jimmy Kimmel was one of the talk shows that unfortunately got canceled due to some, I guess, insensitive remarks that Jimmy Kimmel has said. However, now it's been reported that he has been reinstated, that the show will be aired starting tomorrow on Tuesday. So it looks like they are going to bring the show back. But we're going to talk about freedom of speech. Was it freedom of speech as far as what Jimmy Kimmel said, or did he cross the line, or where is the line when it comes to freedom of speech? I'm going to let you know how I feel about this situation. Once this is over, we're going to dissect this video, and we're going to go ahead and let you know how I feel about freedom of speech and what you should look for in that person, expressing themselves. So let's go ahead and get started with CNN, and then we'll dissect this video after it's over.
Whoever you want, you have a right to say what you want.
You're forgetting about this one, right? Which ad is going to play.
If you think that's
Here's the reason I want to play this, okay? Because I think we're willfully ignoring the threat, which was explicit. It wasn't implicit, it was explicit. Listen to what he actually said.
They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct and take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
It'd be a shame what happens to your nice network. It'd be a shame what happens to your nice show. That's a threat.
Well, and not only that, but then Donald Trump took to Truth Social and then said further, that leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also terrible. Do it, NBC.
It will never end. But, just worth noting, just a couple years ago, back in 2019, Brandon Carr, he tweeted this on a different topic. Should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the public interest. And yet, he is doing exactly that today. Where does this end? Where does this end in your mind? You are fully comfortable with the government saying, if you don't do this, if you don't get this person off the air who said something that was wrong or that you did not like, we are going to drop the hammer on you.
No,
You're good with that?
No, I didn't like it when the Biden administration worked with big tech during
So then
COVID
why are
and
you
said,
defending it?
I'm not defending this. I'm saying right now, if ABC comes out and says, we were forced to do this, we don't want to do this, I think this is part of a larger business decision on their part that goes back to what Scott said before about their feelings.
ABC.
This is a failing industry in terms of late night television.
I get it. Listen,
this is their excuse. This
linear
is their
television,
reason.
failing industry. The whole world understands that. But Nexstar has a very clear financial interest in not getting on the wrong side of that guy whose clip we just played, right? You don't see the problem with that.
And I think right now they're looking at the larger business services and they're hoping that people like you and others would point that direction instead of focusing
Do you
on
at least see an ethical consideration for Carr, a conflict of interest for Carr, some sense of his position as a government official to make that kind of threat?
When is the FCC an attack dog for any political party?
Well, it has been against Howard Stern. It has been against others in the past, which I also object to. There is a slice out of our First Amendment for broadcast, which I think is wrong. And it's based on wrong decisions years and years ago about precious airwaves and about going into the home and so on and so forth. If we believe in the First Amendment, we believe in the First Amendment. And now we have this fascinating thing happening on the right where you have Ted Cruz defending hate speech because he doesn't want his speech taken off. And so where does free speech, is your question, Abby? Where is free speech here then? Where is that line? How do we know where that line is now?
Well, I think it's similar to the debate we've had this week beyond just this topic to people who said horrific, awful things after the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. Now, I think it's awful, but they have a right to say that. But I also think employers have a right to say, not just in this instance, but in so many others we documented, if you say something that's inconsistent with the principles of our organization, be it a college, a business, a nonprofit, we don't want you
Do you
on the
think
field.
Fox should take Brian Kilmeade off the air for what he said about homeless people?
I think in all those cases, they have a right to do that. Whether
Do you think they should? I'm asking your judgment. You're talking about a critic before. You're a critic
Yeah,
now.
doesn't-
Do you
doesn't
think
offend-
Fox should fire
I didn't
Brian
say that they had to take Jimmy
Kilmeade?
Kimmel. I said they have a right to. In each of these
Do you
cases,
think they should?
I tell you, they have a right to. That's what I'm
But
talking
you're also, you continue to talk about how it's a business decision, but the reality is that whether it is a threat, whether it is Donald Trump also threatening to go after organizations just because they have different views than him, he's threatening to go after the far left. All of these aren't business decisions. This is the federal government that is using their power in order to silence the media and people that disagree with them. And that is what is alarming.
So there was some reporting tonight that Kimmel was going to address this on his show tonight, but rather than allow this company to handle this the way that maybe they saw fit, maybe he might have apologized. They decided to go this route, and I have to believe, I guess, because it's in part because Trump. You read one of the tweets, but here's what he said on August 6th after Colbert was taken off the air or his show was canceled. Here's what he said in terms of his order of operations here. Let's play the soundbite from Trump.
Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon.
Okay, let's just take a moment and let's pretend that Donald Trump is not the president. Let's pretend that it's somebody else, and that person says, "I don't like this person. I don't like that person. They're going to be gone next because I want them gone." I think the question that we have to ask ourselves in this moment is, if you took the partisanship out of it right now, would you be comfortable with a president of the United States saying to any private corporation, television network, cable broadcast, that this is how they have to program their TV in terms of who is on and who is not?
I don't have a problem with the president expressing an opinion about people who express opinions about him. And regarding Kimmel, whether he was going to address it or not, I read that he was going to address it, but that he wasn't going to apologize, which I am sure was going to make Sinclair and Nexstar go crazy.
But what about Trump using the government to enforce it? Because it's not just his words. He is also using the government to enforce his words.
Well, it is your opinion that they were threatening them. It is my opinion that they had a larger decision to make regarding their business interests.
Twice now. It is not my opinion that Brendan Carr said you can either do this or I will do that. That's what he said. That's not my opinion. That's a fact.
Look, my view is all these companies have business decisions to make that are based on more than just what a singular person said in an interview. They've got affiliates to deal with. They've got advertisers to deal with. I promise
So why
you
not let them deal
that
with
when
it?
Jimmy
Why
Kimmel
do you
does
have
what
to
he
bring
does,
the FCC into it?
well, look, he gave an interview. I can't tell you that if I were the head of the FCC, I would have given that interview. It sounded a little over the top to me, but I still believe that what's going on here has more to do with their business than it does with the government.
President
Then why won't you guys announce it? That's the thing. Why won't you say what the FCC, what they did is wrong? I mean, I think that's the problem. It was a threat from the administration, and I understand the business ceiling 100%. Just like the first ABC settlement, I truly believe that they were looking at it. It was a business deal. It was a business decision there, and that's why they moved forward with that. But when it comes to an actual threat from the federal government, that's wrong. It is wrong for our government to threaten these organizations when they have the power to approve mergers.
They didn't have to do this. They looked at all of the factors and said, okay, it's time for us to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. I think there's more going on than just Brendan Carr's interview. All the time the president criticizes media outlets who then go out and continue to do what he hates it.
And he sues them.
He's saying that he
for
hates.
$15 billion.
What's going to happen? Nothing. What's going to happen?
This is an attempt to intimidate the New York Times. And you've heard me on this show. I'm not crazy about the New York Times coverage right now.
I mean,
but
listen.
they're trying to intimidate them. The same thing with ABC. The same thing with CBS. This is the power of the government brought down on speech, on the press.
Maybe it's just the power of someone in the government forcing a little self-reflection in these media companies for what they've been doing and the way they've been
free
operating.
Speech or not?
Yeah, of course I do.
But it means you're saying we got to tie our hands and never fight back. All of us who've been attacked.
So let Jimmy Kimmel fight back.
Oh wait, so now it's about fighting back. Do you
Yes,
believe,
I think when he speaks out, when he says these people are bad and disgusting and they're
not,
I totally agree with that. But I don't believe that means an election official like myself or others can say, no, just go ahead and talk. I'm not going to push back on you. That's outrageous.
That the threat of the president suing you for saying things that they don't like, and the threat of the government preventing you from conducting businesses.
Well, the reason the president wanted in the past when he was a candidate
do you understand
was because
that
of actions that they took were contradictory to what they actually reported.
So when Elon Musk was spreading lies about, well, all kinds of things, but let's just put on the table the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, and he was spreading falsehoods about claiming that there was some kind of illicit relationship, completely false stuff. If the government had dropped the hammer on Elon Musk, you would have been fine with that?
No, I'd say it's
so. Why can't we be intellectually honest and apply the same principles across the board? Why do we have to create?
Because you're saying if the government did something, I'm saying they did. They made a decision today that they announced that.
It's amazing how you're acting. How Trump is powerless. He's just out there saying a few things.
No, I think he's extremely powerful. But actually speaking to the voices of millions of people.
I cannot believe it's already been over 3 years with my BetterHelp therapist. After 3 years of therapy, I can read it.
Listen, I'm so sorry, guys. I was so into the thing, I forgot it cut off. But anyway, let me just say this as far as freedom of speech, because Abby brought up a good point. See, they pick and choose. Okay, this is really to me what it boils down to. They pick and choose who can say what. You know, now all of a sudden the government wants to get involved and, eliminate shows all because of what Jimmy Kimmel said. Okay. But Abby just raised the point. But what about when Elon did it and Nancy Pelosi's husband got attacked? Nothing was said. Nothing. It was almost like they didn't even care. It's only when it affects them. And I keep saying that from day one. If it affects them, you're going to see the pushback. You're going to see the fight. Now, listen, do I think that there should be some off-limit things that we shouldn't talk about? It just really depends on the context. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at how Donald Trump speaks, he says whatever he wants to, whenever he wants to, and however he wants to. He's not censored. He's not, and he has said some even more insulting things to people of color, women, the list goes on and on and on. So if we're going to do that, then he's going to have to take a look himself in the mirror too, because again, why are you censoring a talk show where you know, number one, that's all they do? Okay, they make fun of a whole lot of people. Now take it. What Jimmy Kimmel said was insensitive. Okay, he did cross the line as far as the timing of it and what was said. Okay, now this is where the debate comes in. Did he have a right to say what he had to say? Well, technically, it's his show. He's on network. You know, it depends on whatever the guidelines is for ABC and what they allow on that particular station and on that particular show. You know, every company has their code of ethics. Every company have their rules and regulations that you have to follow. Even though you may have freedom of speech, there's still guidelines that you can't cross if you're within an organization. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be the factor and the key for me, you know. But if that's the case, then Donald Trump, who, like I said, he said some pretty ruthless things about people of color and women, you know, so, and Elon Musk too. So if we're going to go around censoring, then we're going to have to censor everybody in the White House and the government, you know, because it's not fair to just eliminate one and not the other, you know. And if you're going to go after Jimmy Kimmel, then you need to go after Fox News too, okay? Because again, they have said some pretty ruthless things. Now, let's go on to the next topic. And we're going to talk about D.L. Hughley. He got on MSNBC. He's going to let you know how he feels about the double standards that are taking place with MAGA and the Jimmy Kimmel suspension as far as what he sees. And everybody says it's a double standard. I also say that too. Okay, so let's listen in it, and we're going to dissect this video once it's over.
At this tough time for these issues. Thanks for joining me tonight.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Your reaction to ABC and Disney responding to the government pressure this way and pulling Jimmy Kimmel?
Well, I think it's disingenuous to pretend like comedy hasn't. I remember when Saturday Night Live used to always lampoon Gerald Ford, or when they talked about George Bush's mispronunciation of words, or they talked about Bill Clinton's sexual scandal. But I've never seen a president use the power of the presidency, the levers of government. Like, say, for instance, somebody wanted a broadcast permit renewed, or somebody wanted a merger to go through, to then say, I don't like these people, and if you want that merger or you want this license, or this could be a problem for you. There's a difference between an audience who culturally they could say, there could be a cultural kind of, indictment of you, where people are calling your boss and trying to get you fired, which is a whole social thing. But the First Amendment doesn't protect you from that. It protects you from the government using the power and levers of power to leverage against you. So I think that people are conflating those two things. Like me getting mad at you saying I'm canceling you, and you are now canceled on the social media realm is a lot different than the man who the most powerful man in the world using the levers of government to do the same thing.
Right, and you've spoken out, and you are among a group of comics who have used your speech at times to also comment on society, on who's in charge or who should be in charge. There's different types of comedy. So I'm wondering what you think the role is of the artist or the dissident now, because fact check true what you said. The First Amendment is first because it comes before the other things. How do we have debates or justice or democracy if we can't speak freely? And it says the government shall not abridge the free exercise and the free speech of the people. So how do you approach this now as a comic in this environment?
I think I did it the same thing when I'd like to believe we do it the same way as we did when it was society doing the same thing, except this government. For the FCC chairman talk about lies, the Trump cabinet is full of people who work for Fox, who had to pay almost $1 billion because they forwarded a lot. When they talk about you're maligning or joking about somebody, Laura Loomer, who serves at the pleasure of the president, made jokes not too long ago about George Floyd being sober for 5 years. Mike Lee made a joke about the congressmen that got shot in Minneapolis. Donald Trump himself, Donald Trump himself made jokes about Nancy Pelosi's husband. And so it's I've never heard anybody get fired for telling a George Floyd joke. and he had kids. So it's just all of that. And I've defended everybody's right. When a comic at the RNC told a joke about Puerto Rico being a floating pile of garbage. Nobody, so we can't have these standards. Just this week, a man on a broadcast talked about killing the homeless. And then a week later, 3 or 4 days later, you have the FCC stepping in and saying that this is offensive.
We are also hearing from other comics speaking out. DL, I want to play what David Letterman, himself a former late night host, said today.
This is misery, and in the world of somebody who's an authoritarian, maybe a dictatorship, sooner or later everyone is going to be touched. They took care of Colbert to be manipulated like that because the Ellison family didn't want to trouble Donald Trump with this move. My good friend Jimmy Kimmel, we all see where this is going, correct? It's managed media. It's ridiculous, and you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.
Letterman, quite clear there, your view of what's next and what lessons there may be, because Jimmy Kimmel had a big audience we've covered tonight, spoke for mainstream America, but we know across the culture, with music artists, dissidents, many people have faced the brunt of this kind of government pressure in the United States before. What is the lessons learned?
Well, obviously, the lesson is the reason I think that we make such a conscious effort to obliterate history is not to learn the lessons before. But ultimately, every American has those famous two knobs that George Carlin talked about. One turns it off and one turns the channel. You have everything a la carte. You can listen to whatever you want. You can hear whatever you want. You can see whatever you want. And that is the power that all Americans have. You don't have to hear Kimmel. You don't have to hear Colbert. You don't have to hear Trump. But to say that nobody should have the right to hear it and to use the government to facilitate that, people seem to forget that who's in charge now won't always be in charge. And some of the very people now who are cheering for this won't be when it's their time in the barrel. I've always been an advocate for free speech. I've defended so many people that offended me in so many ways, but ultimately, either you believe that the First Amendment is sacrosanct or you don't. And one of the things I find particularly offensive is one of the reasons that Donald Trump did so well with the younger demographic was because of these podcast bros. And one of their main gripes was they felt like they were being inhibited by the woke culture, and they thought it was the cancel culture. And to have them now be silent now means that cancel culture was horrible when it was the people, but it's great when it's the government. So
now and I'm sorry, let me just interject for just a second. He's right. Where's all the outrage? Earlier in the year, especially back in January, they put into place that we're going to have freedom of speech. Y'all listen in on, I think it was about maybe back February, I did a video about freedom of speech and how, they pick and choose who can say what and when. If it favors them, if it makes them look good, they're all for it, okay? D.L. Hughley just hit it on the head. He just said that even a Fox pundit made jokes about George Floyd, which he was murdered on TV in broad daylight, right? And also just different people overall, okay? Making racist jokes, talking about Puerto Rico is a land or an island just full of garbage, Africa is a shithole country, all these things which were insensitive, but did they have a right to say it? Absolutely. Okay, but where was the government stepping in then? Where was the government saying, you know what? This person needs to go, or this person needs to be fired, or this person needs to go, all because they didn't like what someone said. If it favors them, they're all for it. Okay, that's what I'm saying. They knit and they pick and they choose. Okay, notice they always go after the liberal type shows, the liberal stations. David Letterman, who's typically liberal, John Colbert, all of them are liberal, pretty much hosts. Okay, Jimmy Kimmel as well. Okay, but you're not going to go see them go after, let's say, Fox News or Sean Hannity or anybody who has said some racist, insensitive things. You're not going to see the government cancel those particular shows. It's only when it's a liberal station, okay, or a liberal comment. But yeah, it's crazy how they pick and choose. But anyway, let's keep going and then we'll end it for tonight.
Either you got to decide that there are rights that we all deserve or none of us do.
Very well put, and you've walked the walk, both on the comedy. I've always found you pretty funny. We've had lighter segments than this, sir. But on comedy,
isn't it funny that the
as a
segment
force.
about comedy isn't funny? The segment about comedy and what it means, it really is so. It's so surreal to live somewhere where literally every joke has a victim. Every single one. Everyone.
Sure.
And now, depending on the sensitivity of the person who you're telling the joke about, there's also been something that's happened. I think two things that have happened that maybe people haven't. The role of the satirist is more important than ever. 60% of Americans get their news from satire, from social media, from comedians.
Sure.
And so now, the other thing is that we have the last two of the three popular presidents, Obama and Trump, are both they're cultural. They're cultural icons.
Right.
They have big. So now it's a whole different complexion.
And we know that Trump understands TV and PR, and he obviously knew and felt that this was making a difference, making an impact. DL, again, thank you for joining me on a big night. We'll have more fun next time, I hope. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you, man.
All right, so you heard it from DL Hughley, how, it's just, it's all about favoritism. If they're for the Republican, if they're for MAGA, and they say something insensitive, which they have done a lot over the years, you don't see any outrage. You don't see them caring about it because, again, it has absolutely nothing to do with them, okay? But let me just say this, and there is an update on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. He is going to be back on tomorrow, starting Tuesday night. So it looked like they are going to try to get him back on the ABC. Now, I'm going to tell you why I think they did that. Number one, they're probably losing a lot of money on that station because ABC and Disney is together. Okay, so people are canceling their subscriptions to like the Amazon Prime and things like that are connected with ABC. Disney as well, which is connected with ABC. So a lot of people, and they're starting to see those subscription counts go down. And I told y'all, they only respond to dollars, okay? At the end of the day, if they start seeing that money go downhill, even though it was insensitive, they've thought it over and they're going to restore that channel just like that. So anyway, guys, but I just wanted to tackle that for tonight because, freedom of speech is important. Some people say that it was, out of course, out of pocket what he said, and you know what, maybe so. I think when it comes to things like that, especially when someone gets killed, I think that there should be a level of, I think the timing of it, you got to watch how you're delivering things to, the world because, everybody's not going to be on board. Not everybody's going to be happy about it, But at the same time, the main people that's complaining about it, they're also guilty of it themselves, So that's, like I said, Trump has said so many crazy things out of his mouth throughout the years. So, again, they just pick and choose. All right, guys. So let's just give it up for tonight. Yes. So I will be back on Thursday at 8 p.m. We're going to dive even deeper as far as the political arena. And guess what, guys? The new station, which is Fun and Entertainment with T, we are going to start relaunching more and more shows on that channel at Saturday at 8 p.m. as well. Okay? All right, guys. So anyway, if you enjoyed the content, please hit like, share, and subscribe. And also, if you can, Please hit the notification bell. That way you won't miss any episodes every time I come on to YouTube. All right. I just want to make sure everybody is aware. 8 p.m. on Monday and Thursday nights. All right. All right, guys. So everybody enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you at 8 p.m. on Thursday. Take care. Bye-bye.